Hopefully all is well with you and yours. I am actually live streaming today from my high school bedroom, my childhood home, and I made it safely to Ohio. Yesterday was my brother's wedding. My little brother got married, and well, let me just start off with a prayer before I get into all of the chit-chatting. God and Goddess, thank you so much for this beautiful day and all the safe travels that you have provided my family and friends with this weekend. Please continue to provide safe travels, especially for my brother who is on his honeymoon now, and help us to dive into your word today and learn something really great. Help us to climb the ladder and become more like you, to create a garden paradise on this earth. In the name of Elohim, I pray. Amen. Today is Mind Day. Our God and Goddess, immanent and transcendent, send to all your angel of peace. To all the helpful thoughts of my mind, send your angel of power. So, that being said, always really important that we focus on what is going into our minds and the things that we allow to ruminate in there, because those can affect us either in a positive way or a negative way. And so much of the media that is in this world is designed to drag us down the ladder. So, that being said, I am excited to read some of the Megillah with you today, but I'll just talk really quick about my experience. So yeah, my little brother got married yesterday, and it was a really nice ceremony and reception, and I was like really looking forward to the dancing. And if you haven't seen the picture of my heels, actually, I might have a nice picture of my cool heels that I wore yesterday. I danced the entire time in these heels, even though they were brand new, and were not exactly like the most comfortable on my feet. See how the coolest little thing is in the back? Yeah, really cool shoes. Anyways, the first song that was on was the Cupid Shuffle. So as soon as the music started playing, I jumped out of my seat and ran in my little heels over there to do the dance. And it was a really good time. My niece and nephew were there, and I really got to have a good bonding experience with my niece this weekend. And when we were on the ride home, she's like, "Auntie, I'm really gonna miss you." And then when we got home back to the Airbnb, she said, "If you forget me, you can always call." And I'm like, "Oh, I could never forget you. You're so cute." Oh, it was a really, really good time. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that experience. And yeah, so that being said, let's jump into the Holy God spell. This is from the Holy Megillah of the Nasarean Bible of the Essene Way, translated by Dave Greenleaf and available at essene.org. For those that want to dip your feet in, I did put the PDF in the description below. However, it is a limited PDF version. The full Megillah is still being, the translation itself is done, but they are working through, fixing the typos and all this other stuff. The Megillah itself says that it goes forth every 1,000 years in this time of turmoil, and the idea is that we try to spread it as far as possible and hope that people are ready to embrace the message of love and return to the upward spiral way of life, the Edenic path. And yeah, so I'm really excited to see the remaining chapters, but they're hoping that it'll be done within like the next year, less than a year away. So anyways, once that is available, or once that's done, it will be available for free online on their website. So that being said, this is going to be from chapter 89 of the Holy God Spell, which is not available in that PDF because it only goes up to chapter 49. But it is titled, Yahshua Heals the Spiritual Blindness of a Beggar that Pretended to be Physically Blind. I thought this story was so cool, and I'm really excited to share it with you. In Magdala, a fishing village on the shore of Lake Galilee, where, as a child, Miriam and her mother, Zibiah, had gone to live after their escape from the attack on their village in Ethiopia, the Lord had an interesting interaction with a beggar that pretended to be blind. That account was as follows. Yahshua, walking through a busy market, saw a beggar that, although that though pretending to be blind, was not actually blind. Behold, the beggar used his fake blindness as a way to receive more money for his begging. Yahshua perceived that the beggar was not truly blind, but had no intention of revealing that fact. However, as Yahshua passed the beggar, the man said, "I sense that a holy man is passing my cup without dropping a coin." Yahshua, speaking quietly so that the crowd could not hear, replied, "You see more than you let on. For lo, you are not truly physically blind. Nevertheless, you do suffer from a form of blindness. You are to some degree spiritually blind, and have no fear. But have no fear, it can be cured. I've also noticed that you have a healthy sense of humor and some other good qualities." The beggar replied in a soft voice, "How did you know that I am not truly blind in the eyes? And what do you mean that I am spiritually blind?" Yahshua said, "A liar radiates untruth. I can sense it in the way that truly blind persons are said to be able to sense subtle things. Without meaning to offend you, I can honestly say that your degree of untruth is, to my senses, rather obvious. It actually smells like rotten eggs on a psychic level. I say that you are to some degree spiritually blind because you are choosing to live a lie rather than be honest. I say some degree because though you are living a lie, you are nonviolent and clearly have some positive attributes. I have seen you here other times and have noticed how you interact with people in a friendly, humorous manner. You are earning your daily bread living a lie, but you are not beyond reach of being healed." The beggar replied, "Would you heal me?" Yahshua said, "Only you can heal yourself of this ailment. You would need to quit living this daily lie of pretending to be a blind man." The beggar said, "I make 4 times as much money pretending blindness than I previously made begging." Yahshua said, "And so you have a decision to make." For the remainder of the day, Yahshua spoke to the beggar about the spiritual life. Yahshua explained that there's a spiral of spiritual evolution or ascension, and rising on that spiral is the only dance worth dancing. I love that. There's a spiral of spiritual ascension, and rising on that spiral is the only dance worth dancing. He described what is meant by the term heavenly consciousness and how one attains that state of being. At the end of the day, Yahshua dropped many coins in the cup of the beggar and said once more, "And so you have a decision to make." Behold, a month later, Yahshua again visited this market. The beggar that had previously posed as a blind man now sat in the same spot with his same donation cup, but there was a difference. He no longer was pretending to be blind. Instead, he played a stringed instrument, sang songs, and told funny stories. He was not an extremely talented musician, but he was a great storyteller and seemed to be having much more fun. Indeed, he appeared to be truly happy. Yahshua approached him and said, "Your blindness has been healed." The man replied, "I had a decision to make. I make half the money, but am 10 times happier." Love that. So that was this story, and I just thought that was really cool for many different parts. Like the fact that he basically said that their degree of untruth actually smells like rotten eggs on a psychic level. Like being able to sense something like that on such a deep spiritual level is really, really cool to me. And it's just a really beautiful story of redemption too. So the next thing that I wanted to read you today is from chapter 90 on the next page, and it's called well, I shouldn't read you what it's called, but it has to do with Yahshua and an assassination attempt. So let's just actually get into it so that the title doesn't ruin it. So this is from chapter 90 and verse 3. Nebiah placed her hands upon the crown of Yehuda the strong, the fourth disciple of Yahshua. Nebiah said, Yehuda, of all lions of Zion in the world today, you are considered the greatest practitioner of martial arts. Rose chose you to be the primary martial artists of the 3 lions she sent to protect her grandson Yahshua. So just to recap that, the grandmother of Yahshua picked these 3 lions that were with him from the beginning of his time, actually, on this physical earth, in this physical incarnation. So it's really cool that there's these martial artist lions that were there to protect him and were always just, watching out, and it's just so cool. Okay. But know this, you can only protect Yeshua's body until he decides it is time to give it up. For when he makes that decision, none can hinder him. The Lord has reasons for everything that he does. But until he is ready to give up his body, you will indeed protect him from more than one attack. Wherefore I feel called to gift you, Yehuda the Strong, with an ancient relic that has been handed down by the bloodline of Judah, the founder of Zion. If you don't remember that story, it was really cool. It happened in the beginning of the Nasarean book of Genesis. Well, not the beginning, but actually towards the end. And this is after... This is a really cool story about Rafa and all of these people that were being summoned to the base of the mountain, essentially, to go and ascend the mountain. And she felt called to go, and these minions of the evil one tried to stop her and say, go a different way. And she's like, no, I feel called to go this way, and I don't care what you say. I'm going to go the way that I feel called, my soul. And they threatened her. They actually beat her. They broke her body parts. They were about to rape her when Judah came onto the scene and literally saved her. Like, he had no former training in martial arts. And in that moment, it was just divinely gifted to him the knowledge of what to do, to be able to react and know when his enemies are coming after him, to be able to sidestep out of the way and just get out of that situation. It's a really, really cool story. So we'll have to revisit that again. But for now, this ancient relic was handed down from the bloodline of Judah, the founder of Zion. I am of the bloodline of Judah and am the current keeper of the staff of Judah. This staff is made from a branch of the tree of life given freely to Judah by the holy tree. Wherefore it shows no signs of its age. And now I gift it to you, Yehuda. I am a lioness of Zion, but physical combat is not my prowess. My prowess is prophecy, and I have foreseen that a time will come when you, Yehuda, will need this staff to protect Yahshua from an attempt to end his incarnation before he is ready. My inner vision has revealed to me that you are of the bloodline of Judah, though I would have gifted you this staff for this purpose regardless of your bloodline, based solely on your personal merit. Nebiah handed Yehuda the staff and smiled when she perceived that he immediately sensed the power of the staff. Nebiah said, Yehuda, feel my sincere blessings flow now through my hands into your crown. Blessed be, dear Yehuda. The staff of Judah in the right hand of Yehuda blazes with radiant light as Nebiah's blessing of love flowed into his crown. Only those with the gift can see that radiant light, for it is not seen by the physical eye, but by the third eye. The fulfilling of that prophecy. The manner of the fulfilling of that prophecy will now be described. Because the wide public awareness of the healings performed by Yahshua in the region of Galilee and Syria had alerted the authorities of his presence, the Lord had announced that we would depart the following day. Lo, Nathanael had the previous night a dream that the Aaronites were preparing to make an attempt on the life of Yahshua. Nathanael, known as Nathanael, the dream reader, was known to sometimes have prophetic dreams. And back in Alexandria, on the same day that Nebiah had spoken words of prophecy about Yehuda, she had also spoken the following words to Nathanael. It looks like Nathanael, but it's Nathanael. How can it be mere chance that a natural dream reader, one born with the gift, would be among the companions of the Lord and Lady? I foresee that your gift will be of great service to the Lord and Lady and their companions. Although we were to depart the region the next morning, Yahshua had previously agreed to do one last talk this afternoon near Magdala. The Lord said, "You all, even Miriam, will remain at the campsite, which was in the wilderness outside of Magdala, while I do this last talk by myself. One individual alone will not draw the attention that a group would." There's multiple times in here as well that they would do things in very small groups so that they wouldn't draw attention, because anytime these powerful souls go out into the world and start doing things, that attracts the attention of the Aaronite psychopaths that are in charge, the Satanists that are in charge, that not only believe in animal sacrifice, but believe in human sacrifice. And if you also remember the story of Cain and how he was actually raised by the evil one, he was specifically raised to be a killer. And at one point he was told, oh, you've helped off multiple people, but the ultimate thing for you to become in the order of the priesthood is to kill a Nazarene. And that led to the killing of Abdiel, the high priest, who was the first one to climb the golden ladder, or I guess I should say the tree of life, ascend the tree of life, become the tree of life, and be the first high priest of the Nazarene way on this earth. So anyways, they went into, Christ was going to go into this group, or into the Magdala alone. We all know that he was making this choice in case the attack was to happen prior to our departure in the morning. He did not want to risk the lives of others in our group. He even asked the 3 lions of his presence to stay and guard the group rather than accompany him back into the village of Magdala. When all of us protested, he agreed to take one of those lions of Zion, Yehuda, with him. As Yahshua and Yehuda approached Magdala, Yehuda suggested that they enter separately so as to not be seen together. Yehuda said, "I will scout the area, but will remain always close so as to intervene if need arises." Yahshua agreed, saying, "So we do not call attention to the meeting location. We will enter through the way used only by the fishermen, the entrance near the water. The Aaronite priesthood will expect us to use the common entrance, since they know that we have been camping outside the village." They had no problem entering the village that way, and being certain not to draw attention to the meeting location, for they did not want to put their hosts at risk, and with Yehuda remaining outside on watch, Yahshua gave his talk. On departing, Yehuda suggested the following: "Let us depart by the gate that we suspect that they are watching for you. Better to draw the assassins out and deal with them now than have them search for the campsite after dark. I will not let them see me, but will be near." Yahshua agreed. As Yahshua approached the exit of the village, 4 assassins hired by the hardline faction of the Aaronite priesthood ambushed him. From each of 3 directions, men with knives and swords charged towards him, and at the same time, from the 4th direction, an assassin on a rooftop prepared to shoot an arrow at the Lord. Having scouted the area without being noticed, Yehuda noticed the assassin hiding on the roof, snuck up behind the man just as he released the arrow. Behold, Yehuda was not close enough to grab the man before he released the arrow, but as the arrow began to fly, The staff of Judah, swung by Yehuda, knocked the arrow to the ground. Then, seeing that Yahshua had defeated one attacker and was about to defeat a second, while a third man behind the Lord raised a knife to plunge it into Yeshua's back, Yehuda threw the staff of Judah in the manner of a spear and hit the knife hand. The knife bounced away. Lo, the staff of Judah had flown faster than it seemed possible for wood to fly. Having quickly defeated the second attacker, Yahshua turned and defeated the now knifeless third man. Yahshua and Yehuda quickly departed, creating several false trails in case they were followed, before returning to the campsite. They woke the camp in the middle of the night and had us prepare to depart. Before dawn, we departed for the region of Mount Carmel. I don't know about you, but that was really, really exciting. I really love these stories about the lions and how these interactions are just like so intense, and God and God, hey little bee, God and Goddess always provide a way for them to get out. And that's kind of what Zion is. It's that centeredness with the one, with the all, and the connection with God and Goddess that allows the moves to be downloaded to us at the time that we actually need them. So there's actually a Day of Greenleaf has a book strictly on Zion if you're interested, and it's on Essene.org as well. But there are different teachings in the Holy Megillah that are written in that book or explained in there. So if you only want to read this, you definitely can as well. That was so cool. All right. David D says, hello, everybody. God and Goddess, please help us. Please help deal with the demonic attacks we all face. Absolutely. Untruths smell like rotten eggs on a psychic level. How interesting. Hey, Dave, how's it going? Dave says, ha ha. Untruth smells like rotten eggs on a psychic level. What a great description. And also, like, how cool to have those senses as well. And the more that we purify ourselves and get in line with the center of all, with Yah, ultimately, those things start to become more prevalent in our lives, not just being able to psychically smell untruth, but also, you know, our own different powers, right? These things that they say are superhuman and all this, like telepathy and being able to just communicate and magically manifest more powerfully. All these different things, the more pure and in line that we become, the more, again, the more prevalent they become in our lives, more powerful as well. David D says Christ cured his blindness by calling him out as a liar, right? So such a cool story. And yeah, it's interesting how different so many of these stories are compared to the mainstream biblical narrative. There's still magic. There's a lot of magic in this, but also there's so much practicality as well. When we read the story about the feeding of the multitude, it was a story about gratitude and sharing. And the one kid brought some figs, and then no one else wanted to help share their food. And Christ basically called them all out and was like, you know, this kid is really happy because he got to share with everybody. And you guys all look sad, you know, and maybe you should take a lesson from the kid. And then they passed around the baskets again. And now there was an abundance of food for everybody to share. So just really, really awesome stories. I love this. David D says, Zion is so awesome. Connect with God and Goddess and get your moves. You need it through divine inspiration. Exactly. And if you also like feel called, there are people that will learn Tai Chi and different forms of actual martial art and try to practice the moves. But there is a level of spontaneity that comes with Zion that is different from just this calculated, all these calculated moves that everybody else is doing. It's a different system in itself because it's based on Nazarean philosophy and understanding Nazarean cosmology and how we're one with the all, and all these different things that are Nazarean that apply to it, that is not going to be found in Tai Chi or Qigong or any of these other forms of anything that we find in the world today. Dave says a whole new meaning to sniff out a liar. That's very true. Yeah, I'm really excited for all of our superpowers, and there are different prophecies in different areas about, especially in these end times, us upgrading. I don't believe in the 24 strands of DNA and all of this stuff. As far as DNA goes, it's the two stakes that the Shemesh and Shemaiah, the male and female divinity that go around the pool, that the center pool that is Yah. So there's only the two strands that mesh together. All that third strand stuff and everything is a deception. But there are things that lie dormant, powers and other things that can be activated again by purifying ourselves. And yeah, it's really just cool to see some of those prophecies and also kind of feel them within myself, and feeling the urge and draw to purify, because, you know, we're already in the time of the sixth trumpet, according to the book of Enoch in this beautiful book here. And who knows how long that will last. Hopefully we can awaken people before it gets too far. And I am going to still hold on to hope, because I have to for my own sanity, and because ultimately everything is working towards the universal salvation. But as far as this one period in time goes, it's going to be hard to try to counteract the, oh, AI is doing all of these miracles, get a microchip in your brain and see these upgrades, people that couldn't walk before, people that couldn't see before, people that couldn't talk before, all of these magical healings are coming from getting chipped, right? And it's going to be not only that, but then even like we saw with the COVID jabs and everything, like, well, if you don't participate, you're not going to have your job for long, or, you know, you can be threatened in other different ways. And the prophecies specifically state in this case that the master brain will be connected to all of the workplaces, and then the employees will be required to connect to the master brain. Otherwise, you don't have a job because you can't connect to the system. So sorry, we can't hire you. And then it's like, oh, well, you can't buy and sell unless you have this. And now you got to go live in the wilderness. And since you're an animal living in the wilderness, you know, you're not helping us make Earth better by getting a microchip in your brain. You know, I'm just thinking of this movie called The Host, and it is a futuristic time where everything on Earth is perfect, and it's because this alien species has basically invaded everybody, and their eyes go to this like really bright blue, and it's like, oh, well, you're not part of us, so you're a threat to the world. You're the reason why all of that pollution and everything in the past happened. Like, we're moving past that. Come and join us, right? This transhumanism, it's the same kind of concept. So I have a feeling they're going to, you know, the same thing as COVID. Oh, you don't get your shot, you don't wear your mask, you're going to kill my grandma, right? You're a threat, you're the problem. Eradicate this person, right? So it'll be interesting to see. But like I was saying, I do have hope for the future, but I also know that it's not going to be easy. We've been going down this one path for a very long time, and for humanity to shift course, it's definitely possible, but we have to break through to people, and it's really, really hard, especially with all of the agendas and the programming. Like, even your basic conspiracy truths, people just want to reject, they don't want to look into. And so the bigger things are even harder for them to swallow. And not just the programming, but like the fluoride and this not caring, right? Like, who cares if the earth is flat? Who cares if this? Who cares if that? It's like, your soul does, but you've been fluoridated to the point where you're not functioning properly. And that's the point. They want to cut us off as soon as possible. Even in your mother's womb, they're trying to harm you through prenatal vitamins, ultrasounds, whatever they're trying to do to mom in the doctor's office. Avoid it at all costs, as my parenting advice. When I get pregnant, the last thing that I will ever do is step into a hospital, because they're not designed to help you. They are designed to lead you down the path of big pharma, which needs lifelong customers. Not really needs, because frankly, they print money. So it's not about money. It's about the suffering and the harm that they can cause to humanity, so that we're broken, disconnected, and suffering, and they can feed off of all of the things that come from those factors. And this is not, I'm not talking about your average doctor who has no clue. I'm talking about the order of the parasites that literally formed the pharmaceutical industry and created what we now know as science, the medical industry, religion, all of it. It's kind of all together. David D says, I wonder how much of Christ's miracles come from calling people out. That's a really good question, because how often is it, again, that we're putting ourselves in these hell realms because of our own actions? It's like almost 100 times out of 100 times that we're doing it to ourselves, whether it's karma from this life or previous lives. You know, everything does happen for a reason. We need to purify ourselves ASAP, or we are already in the end days of the final trumpet. Exactly. And like I was saying, we don't know how long the sixth trumpet will last, but as we've mentioned before, the seventh trumpet is when the children of the crescent moon have seen this AI takeover and things have gotten really bad, and they come and bomb the White House. And the master brain planned this. They wanted this to happen so that the White House and all of this government that's, you know, puppets, pick your favorite puppet, everybody have a hero and have someone you hate, right? They're all out of the way, and the real shadow government can come out, and it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we can avoid that timeline. It's really important that we try to wake up as many people as possible. So hopefully you are doing that. And the one thing, like the number one thing that anybody can really do to fight the New World Order, it's not posting memes online. It's by changing your daily actions. If you enslave animals multiple times a day for your meal, you shouldn't be surprised that you are enslaved yourself. You shouldn't be surprised that we're headed towards this new world order of no freedom, suffering, absolute hell, when you're doing that to the animals already. We already deserve that future. It's just that our karma is based on, you know, our knowledge. Once you actually know that what you're doing is wrong, then you can be punished more harshly. If you're ignorant, like they say, ignorance is bliss. If you don't know any better, you're going to be judged as if you don't know, and you're just like, right? Once you know, now you're responsible for what you're actually doing. And that's one of the reasons why the state that we're in is so much more favorable than the New World Order that they have planned, even though that's what they have planned. If they could do that right now, they would. And, you know, they understand karma. So they get us to do bad things so that they can come and punish us for those bad things. It's a really simple thing. Stop doing the bad things. You won't get punished. It's really simple. We can only avoid that timeline by getting the teachings of God and Goddess to humanity. Exactly. And it's definitely been these teachings have been suppressed on purpose, and the teachings of the mainstream Bible and all of these other corrupt religions that promote God as a jealous, angry tyrant who requires you to go and kill an animal in order to forgive you. But then we're also supposed to see God as a good parent. I don't know about you. They're still alive. I have good parents. And if I do something wrong, or I guess I should say did, I'm not a child anymore, so it's not really the same. But if I did something wrong, they wouldn't say, okay, we'll forgive you if you go and kill 3 pigeons, go and slit a pig's throat. Then we'll talk about forgiving you, because I'm not able to forgive you unless you do that. Like, it doesn't make logical sense once you start to actually think about it. It's all really just programming. They've convinced you that you need to, you know, without sin or without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sin. And that's just not true. God and Goddess are literally waiting with their arms wide open, like good parents, to forgive and to love and bring you back in. And like I've said before, we're usually the ones that keep us out of that forgiveness and in those lower hell realms of suffering and shame and you know, regrets. So David T says, have you seen the story about Irina? Oh, is that how? Irina? I don't know how to say their name, but actually I have seen this. The Ukrainian girl who was allegedly stabbed to death by a homeless black guy on the train in North Carolina. Story has gone viral. I actually did see that video, and it's interesting because obviously mainstream news is going to play it off as, we can't, but they show us a scene and then they basically say, oh, and he's about to stab her and he has his hands up, and they pause the movie and then they show the next clip where the guy's just walking out and no one else on the bus or the subway, whatever the heck it was the train, no one else on in the seats around this person move at all. So let me just, like, really, you're gonna just sit there while someone just stabs someone and you're not gonna move at all? You're just gonna sit there nonchalantly like nothing happened? Some things are just not adding up about the story. That being said, I know that there are violence issues in our world and that different groups of people have been targeted to have media and different social programming that will make them more violent. And that's on top of eating violence for every single meal. So the average person is already taking in that violence. Look at all of the war that we have today. Even just being violent against the animals. Like there's a underlying nature of violence that is throughout everybody, well, besides besides the vegans at this point in our world today. And different groups have been seeded with different programming to create racial division and problems between races. And yeah, we've all, like, they have specifically targeted all of us for different ways that they could create this. So it's not just that they've targeted one group, they've targeted us all for different reasons to create the problems that we're facing today. So yeah, that story, it was just kind of interesting because they were trying to say like that these people didn't know each other and didn't have any previous interactions or anything, and then he just stabbed her for no reason. And yeah, I just smell an untruth in this story, not only because it's coming from mainstream media and the supposed victim doesn't look like a biological female. It just doesn't make sense. So it'll be interesting what they continue to try to push with the racial divide and also the sex divide, right? Trying to pit men and women against each other, trying to pit every race against each other. The whole white man versus Native Americans has been going on for a long time, and there's still people around Mount Shasta especially that will this is the natives mountain, and like they'll get really into it, and there's animosity, underlying animosities. But if you look through history, all of these different groups have been, again, targeted and used to do different things. Like they've all been the oppressor and then the oppressed. That's how it works. So like, for instance, there were giants and other souls that lived in America before the Siberian migrants came here and then became Native Americans. And that's not the only time that different groups have migrated and killed the people that were there and taken over. And then like history gets rewritten in so many different ways throughout time. So it's hard to even trust what the real history is. As far as the land grabs and all that stuff goes, no land is owned by anybody. And like this world was created for all of us, not just no specific place was created for a specific person to try to own and keep away from other people. That's not the way. There should be an open border system where we can all travel freely with good intent in our hearts and just explore this world as our creators intended for us, without all of these ropes and division and disunity. So David says the Black community has long been targeted by Satan, promoting rap, drugs, and violence. Definitely. I definitely agree with that. And it's a really sad situation that has happened. And yeah, really the one thing that we need to fix it is written in the religion of love. It's returning to that Garden of Eden paradise where we're not eating violence, we're not partaking in violence, we're just living in a way that is in unity with one another. Whenever there's conflict that arises, first and foremost, we say in ourselves, how do I approach the situation with love and kindness in my heart in the best way that will provide an outcome that is going to be beneficial for us all and healthy for us all, rather than this combative nature and this unity programming that we've all been under. Let's see if I can find scripture in here really quick. My Bible is so loud. When I went up to the Essene church, I was trying to like follow along in my book, and I'm like trying to turn the pages as quietly as possible, but because it took a swim in the lake, it's just so crinkly and loud. If I can't find this, I will just read it to you another time, but I think it is right here, 843. Just to bring up something regarding nonviolence, just because we're talking about it. This is chapter 72. A Nazarene man in Alexandria asked Yahshua, if I see a crazed killer with an axe about to kill my child, is it too violent if I throw a spear and kill him? Let's say also that he has already killed one child. Let us also agree that in this example, the man is too far away from me to otherwise intervene to save my child from decapitation. The axe is about to fall, and there is a spear leaning against the wall where I stand. Would you condemn me for violence if I threw that spear to stop the killer? What say you, good master? Yahshua replied, if one has achieved the level of wizardry to shout, drop that axe, with all confidence that, as if struck by a lightning bolt, that axe will fall harmlessly from his hands, then shout. How cool would that be to like have the confidence that that you're going to just be like, drop that axe, and it's just going to be hit out of their hand just because of the power. For you are only expected, otherwise throw the spear. For you are only expected to manifest the level of nonviolence that is related to your current level of spiritual development. And again, this whole talk on nonviolence is in the context of a child being harmed. It's not just like, oh, well, let's just go and harm each other, because that's not really exactly what we were talking about, but I just thought that it was kind of related. So Yahshua replied, if one has just kidding. I already read that. In the specific example you gave, a human being would do well to intervene to save the child being attacked and other children from that attacker, even if an act of violence were needed. So the majority at this level of the cosmic school system, even the majority of nonviolent Nazarenes, do well to throw that hypothetical spear. Nevertheless, this planet, which the translator is not a flat earther yet, doesn't understand that we're inside, well, does understand that we're inside the mother ovum, but hasn't, understood flat earth yet. This earth is even now graced by some few that need only proclaim, drop that axe, and the axe would drop as if it was hit by a lightning bolt. For those few, it would be a sin to throw the spear, since in their case, violence is not needed to save the child. And that also highlights that, violence is a sin. It's against the will of the Creator. Even in the Zayen, their form of martial arts, it's a non-violent form of martial arts. It's not an aggressive thing, and your intention isn't like trying to kill them or really hurt them. You're just trying to save the child, save someone else, or get out of a situation. So, in one part, there was like, he broke their arms, but he left them with their legs so that they could run away. Like they're not trying to actually hurt them. They're just saying, like, stop doing what you're doing and get away from me. That night, sitting beside a fire with the Lord and Lady and their companions, Yohanan said to the Lord, I heard your words in response to the question about the spear earlier today. I spent the rest of the day contemplating the term nonviolence. For Nazarene wizard or not, I am not absolutely confident that the axe would fall from the hand of the attacker according to my will and word. Sure, I hope it would, but because I have not done anything like that before, I am not at all confident that my verbal command would work. In fact, I suspect I would throw the spear as fast and straight as I am able. I would not consider my act to be without violence, and yet it would feel appropriate considering that the likely outcome otherwise would be the slaughter of a child by an axe-wielding killer. I would not feel particularly proud of that act, neither would I hang my head in shame. And so I sat this afternoon and deeply contemplated the term nonviolence. Will you, my friend and my Lord Christ, grace my ears and the ears of the brothers and sisters that tonight share our fire with your reflections on the term nonviolence? Yahshua replied, Yohanan, you freely admit that you would throw that spear. Most high-ranking lions of Zion likely do not know that they would do what they would do in that exact hypothetical situation that the man today described. The killer had already struck down one child, and were you wrong about your ability to stop him with the wizardly affirmed word, the slaughter of another child would occur. Your refreshing honesty is commendable. Rules, such as Nasarean lions not using spears, should not be broken without just and merciful cause, as in saving the hypothetical child in that exact situation described. And also, so they're saying spears here, and Yehuda's was a staff, right? So there's a difference between a staff with no metal on it and the spears. And in the beginning, remember, the evil one is the one that taught them how to make spears and work with metal. So what is appropriate to one man or woman may not be appropriate to a less developed or more developed man or woman. And what is appropriate for any person at a given stage of their own development in nonviolence may no longer be appropriate at a high level of their ongoing spiritual development. In my own case, there have been times in my life when I likely would have thrown the spear. Here and now, I would speak the word of command in the confidence that the axe would fall from the hands of the attacker. I tell you truly, without complete confidence, the enchantments of wizards often fail. But for the sake of the edification of the hearers gathered around this fire, I will speak now of some layers of complexity in the hypothetical scenario described by the man earlier today. For example, your ability to speak the word and cause the axe to fall harmlessly is not only dependent on your life condition, but also on the condition of the other being, the killer. What if he is literally deaf and cannot hear your voice? And some are not literally deaf, but are in a condition where your voice will not alter their immediate action. The way I feel about myself is that deep within, I would know the reality of the given moment and act spontaneously, remember Zion, spontaneous, and appropriately. Yahshua said to the assembled companions, yes, let us contemplate, as did Yohanan, the term nonviolence. Typically, in the most general sense, when we speak of violence, what do we mean? We think of some sort of physical intervention, such as a club on the head or a knife to the gut. We think of the military intervention of armies with force of arms. Criminals or armies might use the mere threat of violence to achieve their ends. If so, is that a form of violence? If a ruler starves his people while he and his family grow fat, is that a form of violence? This is a constant form of violence from the predators running our world, right? Are there forms of violence that are as evil as the knife and do damage on a far wider scale than a knife, but are not so obvious? Kind of like chemtrails and other forms of like wide-scale poisoning. What are some of the subtle forms of violence? When we contemplate these and similar questions, we realize that even when we speak about obvious forms of violence and the concept of nonviolence, there are different degrees of ethical rightness and wrongness. A spear to the belly of a child killer that is about to swing an axe and kill yet another child, while undoubtedly violent, is an ethically superior act of violence than the swinging of that axe by the attacker. That proves that there's a scale of ethics in relation to violence. When we use violent intervention to save a child from an attacker, most will agree that it is an ethically acceptable use of violence, even while acknowledging that some highly developed humans might use less violent powers, such as the word of command. Then come the gray areas, like the ongoing debate by philosophers on the theory of appropriate warfare. One can imagine that there might be group examples between nations or villages similar to the scenario of the child and spear. For example, an army unjustly invades a village and begins killing and raping. Is it then acceptable to use swords and spears to defend the women and children of the village? Examples like that are why philosophers spend years debating what constitutes a just war. If one army is raping and pillaging not your own but a faraway village, is it righteous for normally nonviolent men to arm themselves to intervene on behalf of that faraway village? I say that the answer is that each human and each group of humans will do the degree of violent intervention that relates to their level of spiritual development and their sense of appropriateness in each situation. I say also that the type of violence are many, subtle, and complex. And I say that many of my dearest friends would throw that spear to stop the child killer, and that I would gladly fellowship with them afterward. I would do so and would not feel that their vibration is dark. Yet, if I were to dine with the child killer after his deed, though my universal love includes all beings, including him, I would experience his vibration as dark and creepy. I am just being honest with you. The Messiah that stands before you has come as a son of mankind. And as a son of mankind, I prefer the company of freedom fighters with swords to that of those who use violence for selfish reasons. But the sweetest of human vibrations that I have ever experienced is when I have been in the presence of those with the degree of spiritual development to speak the words, "Drop that axe," in the accurate confidence that the axe will harmlessly fall to the ground. But few humans in each generation have reached that level, and each must do what is appropriate at their level of development. In this moment, I honestly believe that I would speak the word and the axe would fall from the hands of the attacker. Even so, I do not expect the majority of humans to demonstrate that degree of development. Absolute nonviolence is not obtained in the human body, but each Nazarene should make a reasonable effort to make ongoing progress in nonviolence. Those that make reasonable progress in nonviolence as a human being will graduate to become angelic cherubim. Even then, there will still be further steps to be made in the ongoing process of development in progressive degrees of nonviolence. So the key thing in regard to the ethical question related to the various degrees of violence is, I believe, our own answer, each of us, in any given moment to the question, am I living up to my current level of spiritual development and taking the next steps that I am ready for, or am I stumbling downward? Man, I would love to get that message to all of the people in the world, especially like, this is so cool. Those that make reasonable progress in nonviolence as a human will graduate to become angelic cherubim. Like, you literally get to graduate and move to a higher level in the cosmic school because of this. And that's what we should be doing, right? The spiral dance is the only dance that's worth dancing. And so, yeah, I think that's really beautiful. And am I living up to my current level of spiritual development and taking the next steps that I'm ready for? Or am I stumbling downward? We're not ever just going straight. We're either going up or down. And unfortunately, the tendency is to go down. And a lot of times, I've said this before, it's like a little steep or not so steep slope that you're just kind of going down. It's like just a gradual, you don't notice it, and then all of a sudden you wake up with cancer. But these are these lower hell realms that you're sinking into by doing evil deeds, and it's very preventable. Once we start to consciously ask, am I of the upward spiral, or am I doing stuff of the downward spiral? That's when we can actually take that power back into our lives and either keep going down in that hell realm for some silly reason, or start to influence our mind, getting our thoughts, our words, and our deeds in line with the upward spiral so that we can ascend to higher heavens. Obviously, that wasn't, it kind of was related to the topic, but kind of not, because this is in the light of defending, but the Nasarean principle of nonviolence still remains, and that would be really beautiful for the world to hear and return to this Edenic state, because this chaos and suffering is not fun. Like, why are we actively choosing to continue down this path? It doesn't make any logical sense. Hello, Krishan, how's it going? Thank you for the live. Are you back after the wedding of your brother? I am. I'm actually in Ohio in my childhood home, and I'm going to be visiting my family for the next a little over a week until next Wednesday, which is my birthday, September 17th. Daniel says, grab spear. Grab a spear and save the child forever and use the spear. Amen. Exactly, especially if you don't have that confidence as a wizard to know that you're going to actually be able to do that. It is very appropriate to save the child, obviously. And, it's not that you need to throw the spear at their head or like try to actually heal them. You can just harm them in a way that gets them to stop and, hey, go tie them to a chair and call the cops. Like, not that the cops, yeah, I don't know. The problem is that the cops are crook too. So what are you supposed to do in that situation? In an ideal situation, you just, subdue them and then you get the authorities in. The police should be here to protect us and serve us, not to be the bullies of the powers that be. And unfortunately, that's what they have turned into. Hello, Kyle Smith. Kyle says, I like to check in and ask, is my ego in charge or my heart? And course correct with mindful breathing as necessary. That is really beautiful advice and a really good way to go about all of our decisions, right? It's like, is this a real decision that's coming from my heart, or is this a selfish thing? Is it a reaction? Is it an unhealed wound that might be, causing me to react or feel a certain way? All of us have those unhealed wounds. And yeah, I really like that. Is it my ego in charge or my heart? David says, spiritually climbing up the spiral golden ladder is the only thing we should focus on. Everything else is a distraction. I definitely agree with that. And it's really so hard in this world when you're trying to focus on providing food for yourself, providing for your family, trying to work this 9 to 5 so that you're not in a state of depravity and suffering, to focus on the spiritual stuff. And, the Megillah actually talks about getting out of the city and how the city is a cooking pot for disease and corruption. And if you really want to heal, you're going to go out into the wilderness and get out of the frying pan and into the swimming pool. I don't know. That was a bad attempt at rephrasing a joke or a phrase. But anyways, yeah, so I really love, I just read that earlier as well, that, the city is like a cooking pot, and to heal, you need to get out of it. It's reminds me of what I'm doing in Mount Shasta, just trying to get into the wilderness and be away from the big cities and get back to the Garden of Eden nature, which I believe that Mount Shasta is related to Cush, if not the Garden of Eden area itself. And, the Lost Continent of Mu by James Churchwood actually talks about the Garden of Eden being in that area over there. And yeah, so it makes sense that the root chakra also kind of would be towards there. And maybe it was just a bigger island that connected with the the North Pole area. So yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to see what the Earth looked like before the weather modification and different sinking of different islands goes, as far as like Mu and Atlantis and Lemuria. Yeah, it'll be interesting to look back on history and see all of the things. That being said, I'm going to jump off of here and go down and see what my familia is up to, because, like I said, I'm going to be with them just for a short amount of time, and it's been a lot of years since I have been able to physically spend time with them. I have, a lot of my extended family lives in the same town, so I'll be able to go and bounce around and play with my nieces and nephews and my cousins and all the different children in my family, and I'm super excited about that. So yay. I'm actually thinking about if I got to see my cousin's daughter. She just had a baby, I don't know how many months ago, but not too long ago. My mom sent me a picture or a little video of the baby, watching a Christian children's series called The Donut Man, I think. Life Without Jesus is like a donut because there's a hole in the middle of your heart. Anyways, I was watching it and I'm like, oh, she's so cute. I'm like, oh, if I got to babysit her, I wouldn't put her in front of the TV. I would start to read her some of the Holy Megillah and especially like those early stories about Christ and Miriam's childhood and all of these magical things that would happen, whether they're healings or encounters with unicorns and Alephim or whatever, all these different species that we're not told about, and the magic there. It's just really cool to actually read that. And who needs Disney when you have the teachings of Christ and Miriam and the magic and the life in these scriptures? For me, is just way better than any stupid TV show or fake movie about magic that you could ever come across. So, hey Kyle, how's it going? Kyle says, if only humans weren't being under constant extortion from the corrupt powers over us. One of the many largest threats of all. That is definitely true. Or the parasites that are constantly feeding on our suffering and trying to enslave us and all of that stuff. Yeah. If only the dark tree wasn't planted on this earth. Anyways, like I said, I'm going to jump off of here, and I will catch up with you tomorrow at noon for the noontime peace contemplation. In the meantime, I hope that you have a wonderful day. May God and the Goddess bless you.